Hey scholars, I'm sorry that this took so long to get to you. I was having some crazy issues with Loom and they are still not resolved, so I'm trying something a little bit different today. We'll see how it works. Anyway, we are unfortunately a bit behind now with our lessons because I wasn't able to get the material online, so I'm going to try and record our classroom lessons, the things that we have been doing in class, or at least the same material for you in a bit of a shortened version so that you don't have to sit through, an hour plus of lesson material for each of the days that you've missed. So hopefully we'll get everybody caught back up and we'll be able to get going. So for today's lesson, now this lesson was at the very beginning of the second quarter. So we're now into the second quarter. We've moved on from mythology. We were learning about the gods and goddesses and things, and now we're moving into actual Roman history. So let's get started. And before we do get started, I want to make a quick note. I have had some parents of you scholars ask me, why are we learning mythology and history and things like that and not just learning Latin? Well, there's a couple reasons. The first one is that you will get plenty of Latin as you move forward through Latin 1 and Latin 2 through the next couple of years in school. In fact, scholars are required to take Latin up through 8th grade, so you won't get to start any other language until 9th grade. And Latin 1 and Latin 2 hit very, very hard on the language. And being that this is 6th grade and intro to Latin, I felt that it would be a little bit better if we sort of took the language at a slower pace with a slow, easy introduction to the language. However, if you are worried that you're not getting enough Latin, don't worry. The entire second semester is dedicated solely to the language. We won't be doing any cultural things or anything like that. We'll be learning the basics of the language from basically when we come back in January until the end of the school year. All right, so, I forgot. The second reason is because I believe that it's really important to learn the culture. It's really, really important to understand the culture and the people so that you can understand the language that they spoke better. All right, let's move on. So for our lesson today, again, this was the first lesson that we received coming back from fall break. So this is the very beginning of recorded history for the Romans. We're going to start at about 753 BC. If you've never seen this sign before, it means about, and you'll probably see it more in math and history in the future. However, if you haven't seen it, that's what it means. That means that we don't have exact dates for these things, but we do have rough timelines. As we move forward in time, we will get sort of closer to exact dates as record keeping got better and everything else. So anyway, so we left off after studying mythology with the Roman king Romulus. He was the last, or rather the first king of Rome. Now, this sort of straddles the line between mythology and history because we don't have solid historical evidence to prove that Romulus was in fact a real person and that he was the king of Rome. However, there are enough historical evidences to suggest that he may have been, although most likely was not, the son of Mars and had a twin brother named Remus. We don't really know about that, or that he was raised by a wolf. Again, we don't know about that for sure, but we do know that the Roman kingdom started somewhere around this time. The first king may have been a man named Romulus, and if it was not Romulus, we do know the name of the next king after him. Unfortunately, we're going to sort of gloss over this time period. And the reason why is because although there were many important things that did happen during this time period, this roughly 150 years, roughly 250 years between when the kingdom was founded and when it ended, although there are important things that happened there are many more, many more important things that happened later. So we're going to sort of skip through that to to about the year 509 BC. And the reason is because during this time there was a great turnover in kings. A king would come up and would do some things, some good, some bad, eventually make some people mad and get kicked out or killed. And that was sort of a cycle that was happening, right? Over and over. There's like, king would come in, people would rebel, kick the king out, make a new king, and repeat, hoping for a better result every time. So in this particular time, there was a king who was just really awful and did some terrible things, and a Roman man by the name of Brutus. I'll write his name up here so we can. Oops. I hope you can see that in the camera. If not, his name is Brutus. All right. So a Roman man by the name of Brutus, he stepped up to lead the rebellion against the current king. However, once they kicked out the last king, this was around 509 BC. Brutus said, "Hey, people, listen. I got this crazy idea. All right. What if we don't put in a new king? I know it's crazy, but hear me out. What if we didn't have a king?" And the people, like, for us, that seems like a no-brainer. Well, yeah, okay, sure, don't have a king, no problem. But you got to remember that for them, back in this time period, especially because they didn't have fast communication, although some other areas of the world did not have kings, the Romans, in particular, for them and the people in that part of the world, had always had kings as far back as they could remember. So the idea of not having a king was kind of crazy. So Brutus said, okay, I've been thinking and I got some ideas, all right? What if, instead of having a king, what if we had something else entirely? And he called that other thing res publica. Now, res publica. We will get into the specifics of what that means in just a second. But first, I want to shift gears a little bit and discuss what might be some of the potential problems with having a king. Obviously, here in the United States, we felt like having a king was a bad idea, so we instituted a different form of government that doesn't have a king, but instead has a president. So historically speaking, we didn't like it. Many other countries have done something similar. So what are some bad things that come from having a king? One thing that I can name off the top of my head is taxation. Okay, kings often place very heavy taxes on the people, and there are no limits to what the king can do as far as taxes goes. And if you can't pay your taxes, you could wind up in jail or worse. So the king has basically this unlimited power to raise taxes. And along with that idea, unlimited power in taxation also goes along hand in hand with unlimited power in other areas. For example, the king can make laws whenever he wants, because whatever the king says goes, right? So if the king was to make a new law that says, you know what, I hate the number 3, so let's take it out of our number system. Well, as long as the king says that, that becomes an official thing, and suddenly your whole country has to change the way that they do math because the king doesn't like a certain number. It's very chaotic on a group of people when you give somebody ultimate power and let them run wild with it. Now, some kings and queens in history were very good. They used that power to do constructive things and to sort of build up their people and create a lasting impression for good. However, oftentimes what we would find is that kings and queens, as soon as they get a little bit of power, they will go and sort of run wild and do whatever they want. And unfortunately, many times people would start out with good intentions, which would then turn negative, just because over time they get used to the amount of power they have and everything like that. So along with that, kings often end up being cruel because they have so much power and they realize no one can do anything about it. There's no king police that can step in and say, excuse me, Mr. King, sir, you're not allowed to do that, right? They can't no one can stop them. So they end up just sort of doing what they want. And unfortunately, when we don't have anybody that we are held accountable to, many times our sort of more animal instincts will come out, right? They will be very cruel. They will be very mean. They will not care about each other, about other people so much. So these are all sort of byproducts that you have when you have a king in your system. Now, there's one other thing that I wanted to discuss with having a king, and it's something that a lot of people don't think about very often, but that is that when there is a king, the king or queen has complete control over everyone or everything in the kingdom. Okay, so let's say I have this marker, right? I own this marker and it belongs to me. I paid for it with my own money and it's mine. If I was to throw this marker on the ground and start stomping on it, or hit it with a hammer and make it explode into ink everywhere, some people might look at me and say, okay, that guy's lost his mind. He's kind of crazy. And, might wonder why I'm doing that. But at the end of the day, because it's mine, no one can stop me from destroying it. It is my property. So the problem is with kings, when you have someone who owns everything and everyone, it's that people are their property. Now, we will talk about slavery later in a future lesson, but that's not really the point with this. I don't really want to take this in a slavery direction right now. The point is that if I'm the king and I have certain subjects, well, those subjects don't mean as much to me because they're just property. They're just things that I own and I can do whatever I want with them whenever I'd like. If I'm walking down the street one day and someone that lives in my kingdom looks at me funny, I can just say, hey, go kill that person because they gave me the stink eye, and no one can stop me. No one can do anything about it, and whatever I say goes. And because they're my property, I don't even care about it. It's just it would be like if this marker just ran out of ink and stopped working and I just chuck it in the trash because it's done. That's sort of like what a king has the power and the ability to do with people. And that's not a good thing, right? I'm sure everybody can agree that's not a good thing. So Brutus, he saw this cycle of, getting a new king and giving them all this power, watching them make bad choices and then replacing them with a new king and hoping the new one is good. Brutus saw this happening and he said, guys, we need a new system. And he called his new system res publica. Now, res means things. Things or stuff. And publica, I'm sure you can guess, means public. So in Latin, a lot of times the sentence structure is flipped around, so it might look funny to say things public, but let's flip those two words around and you have this idea of public things or public stuff. What's he talking about? Well, Brutus envisioned this system wherein all of the things... There we go. Sorry. Brutus envisioned the system wherein all of the things that were owned by the public and not by one individual. Now, if you were wealthy or you had enough money, you could certainly buy things and they would belong to you. That's not saying that everything belongs to everyone, but the idea is that, roads belong to the people, buildings belong to the people, the ability to control trade or to control the military, that all those rights belong to the people. And not only that, but probably most importantly is that the government belongs to the people. This might sound familiar to you if you are at all understanding of how our government works, because we use exactly this same system, only we call it something different because the English translation of res publica is republic. So in a republic, much like the one that we live in today, the people own the government and not the other way around. The president does not own anyone. The people vote for the president, who then works for the people, in theory. But even if the president was not working for the people, the fact remains that the government is subservient to the people and not the people to the government. And that's what really makes a republic stand out. So one thing I want to jump into is the name for this newfound republic. You may have noticed I have several things on my site with sort of a wreath, and I've used that iconography for basically the entire time that we've been in class. The Romans adopted this sort of golden wreath on a red background, along with these 4 letters, to signify to sort of show their new form of government. They were so proud of this new republic that they adopted. So the people agreed with Brutus, and they made this into a thing. They were so proud of it that they changed the name of what they called their country and sort of adopted this symbol to represent themselves. And what it was these 4 letters, SPQR. Now, on the vocab words, these are the vocab words for this particular lesson. The first S stands for senatus. Senatus, that means Senate, right? The P stands for populus. Populus, that's people. And I apologize, I didn't throw up the whole flashcard, I just put the words. So the flashcards are on Google Classroom if you want to see the whole thing. And then the R is from Romanus, and that stands for Roman. That's just describing the Senate and the people. So SPQR in Latin is Senatus et Populusque Romanus. And it's the Senate and the people of Rome. So instead of having a king, Brutus put forth this idea that they establish a Senate who would represent the people and who would be able to pass laws and things that everyone was beholden to. So just like we have today, we have a Senate who is drawn from representatives of the people, and they make laws for the people that affect everyone. Now, the Senate in Rome is not exactly the same as the Senate that we have today. They're a little bit different, and part of that is because we have evolved over time, but also partly because when the Founding Fathers were setting up our country, they took lessons of the failures of ancient Rome and sort of worked those into improving the new system. Anyway, so the Senate represented the people. So we have senatus, et means and, senatus et populus, the Senate and the people. Or so populusque is the QUE on the end of this word. Don't worry too much about it. It's just part of the grammar, which we'll get into in the third quarter. Romanus is describing the Senate and the people. So basically, senatus et populusque Romanus is the Senate and the people of Rome, or the Roman Senate and people. Okay, so the Romans, for the next 250 years, well, actually more than that, almost the next 500 years, would have a Senate who would be in charge of the people, and the Senate was much more stable than a king. And the reason for that is because the Roman Senate set up a series of laws that everyone had to obey, and for the first time in Roman history, nobody was above the law. Typically speaking, the law is here and the king operates at this level, which means the king is over the law and nothing bad can ever happen to the king because the king has all the power. However, once the Senate came in, they established a set of laws. They set them up in front of the Forum, which is a big public area in Rome, and they called them the 12 tables. They basically, they took all the new laws that they had written, put them onto big bronze sheets, sort of, and posted them up into this public area. So it's called the 12 tables. And you will probably recognize this from that activity that we did talking about the Roman laws. And I apologize, this lesson was supposed to go along with that. So if that was very confusing, I'm sorry. Anyway, So they established these 12 tables, and for the first time in Roman history, there was a series of laws that applied to everyone. No one was above the law, not even the senators, not even the very top, their version of the president, which was called the consul. Not even the consul was above the laws. And this created an immense stability throughout the entire era of the Roman Republic, a stability that very few other countries enjoyed. And because of that, the Romans felt like it was their right, so to speak, to spread the glory of their government, the Senate and the people of Rome, to other areas around. And so they didn't feel bad conquering other territories and other nations because they felt like they were enlightening them with their newfound set of laws, these 12 tables, and with their newfound set of their newfound government with the Senate and the people, right? So a series of expansion, a rapid Roman expansion occurred in which the Romans did not feel like they were doing anybody a disservice by spreading the good news of their government and their laws. And in most of the cases, it worked out really well for them. We will discuss that next time. I hope this has been at least a little helpful in getting us caught up. I know this is sort of an abbreviated version of what I went through in class, and I apologize. The Loom videos were just not working for me, so I had to try something different. Hopefully, I'll be able to post a few of these videos this week, and we can sort of go on from there once we get caught up. Thanks. Have a great day.